check. Mic check. Oh, it's looking like we live. What's good, everybody? Let's see. This is a bit of a different type of a podcast. As you can see, if you're actually viewing this, I'm in a whole different location, which actually happens to be what I like to call the crib. So we are recording from the crib right now. Welcome to yet another edition slash episode of one of y'all favorite shows in the whole wide world. Probably next to something on Oprah Network, probably next to one of your favorite animes, probably next to your top 10 movies of all time. You guessed it, the Tried and True podcast, where I like to keep it a buck in all pennies with the listeners and the viewers, and typically with my guests. But today we're going to be doing it differently. It's going to be just me today, which is just as phenomenal, if not more phenomenal, than if I had a guest, because I don't have to worry about the homies disagreeing with me and trying to go back and forth about Call of Duty or some nonsense like that. But we're going to be taking a look at the deciding factor in honor of. Lano and Dustin and Caleb, who typically are always having to remind me to plug the book. Let me go ahead and just get that out of the way. The book is called The Deciding Factor, written and published. Let's see, written over a series of a couple of years, self-published during the pandemic. And it is a book that was designed and constructed specifically to help you understand what are some of the main differences between me and those people that I admire, those who always seem to be able to get the thing done that maybe I want to get done. Not that you're not capable, but maybe you're just not there yet, and you're wondering because you're so diligent and because you're so serious, what are the differences? I wrote this book to kind of highlight some of those key characteristics, which I like to call the deciding factors. I highlighted a bunch of those and I put it in book form. It's not a very long book, it's an easy read because it's specifically designed for those people who they might have a lot going on in the day, or they might prefer audio because they're ripping and running all day. I personally was working so much. I knew that my type of person, and I was working directly next to a CEO as an executive assistant. Part of the time that I was writing this, I was an executive assistant, and I understood what it meant to be someone who is a peak performer. And you might not have the mental capacity at the end of your day to sit down and just want to read something, to spend that much time on it. So what I did was I crafted this piece of literature specifically for people like that. It is not terribly long. It is not terribly difficult. It's designed for everybody, all walks of life. And today we're going to be taking a look at, like I said before, chapter 10 of this book. So give me just a second here. I actually wrote down a bunch of notes from the chapter because I like to make sure that I'm not just talking. You know what I'm saying? And while nothing I do, I think ever, except when I was making music, is scripted, today going to be a little different because I have specific bullet points that I wanted to make sure that I hit for y'all. And I'm going to try to take it a little bit slow and not talk too fast. Because when I'm by myself, I don't really have much of a reason to slow down. The content is so exciting for me. So, you know, I just can get going. Couple of updates right before I jump into that though, man. So I know a lot of y'all probably wondering, dang, you not powered by the content creation studio. You saying you at the crib, what you doing? I actually moved. So in the previous episodes, I was talking about getting ready to move to the East Coast, get ready to head out to Maryland, the DMV area. So I'm here. I actually am getting set up at another location to be able to do some things there. But I mean, y'all know how I am. I'm a mover, I'm a shaker, I'm a doer. So what I did was, in the meantime, I figured out how can I make sure that this thing gets done in the meantime, man. So I got my little setup at the crib, and we still gonna get it done. For the listeners, it probably won't be much different. I mean, I bought some cool stuff, so the audio probably still gonna sound similar to how it was before. The video is gonna look a little bit different for those of you on YouTube. But yeah, man, we just gonna keep it rocking, keep it rolling. More updates on that. It's pretty dope out here. I had a super rough time transitioning out here. I had some things happen that were family emergencies. So some things with me and some things with some family members. So my savings got depleted at one point. I didn't have a job when I moved out here, and I didn't have too many connects. But I moved to get closer to those things that would be become the resources I needed to get to the next level. I had to divorce the old just to coerce and just to kind of court the new before I could even get into a relationship with the new like I am now. So, man, I just jumped off the porch, man. I took that leap of faith. I was like Batman. When he got locked up, he was in that cave, but it was like underground and he was trying to jump. And they were like, until you cut the rope, until you lose the rope and you know that you can't lose, you're never going to make it. So I had to actually get rid of my safety net and I had to cut that rope. And when I tell y'all that I'm so glad I did, it's it's I don't know. I couldn't even describe it. I mean, I'm in a better position now than I've ever been in my entire life, man. So I'm out here making it happen, building the connections I need. After leaving, so many things came to light about my time when I was in Denver. All the people who really rock with me showed themselves. And then some people who were like, nah, we rock with you, but you know, there's some things that you're building that we're just not trying to get in on that stuff. They showed themselves too. No shade to those people at all. I mean, all your homies are not your business partners, and all your business partners aren't your homies. I typically like my business partners to be my homies. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, you figure out who your real friends are, and that's what happened to me when I came out here. I ain't have family out here, none of that. So everything I'm doing now, especially because of the caliber of man I am, and just not letting anyone into my circle. All the relationships I'm building now are just super reciprocal, man. And I'm just very grateful for it. So that's my little quick update on the move for all of the people who actually listen to this, partially for entertainment and not just like instructions and education and all that. Want to make sure that I give y'all some actual lifestyle updates. Yeah, I done got it popping out here, man. I feel good. I've been trying not to shop because I've been shopping like hell lately. If you're watching and you're seeing me in this hat, this is from my homie Dante, that guy at Dante, Dante, that guy. That's my man's right there. He just created these, only a couple of them. And as soon as I saw it, I bought it. So that's my dog. I love that. We are going to get into the deciding factor. Um, I wrote the book. I created a workbook. Both of those items temporarily will become unavailable very soon. Temporarily, I'm working on some new content for you guys, and I want to make sure that I'm focusing on one thing at a time. Maybe not one thing all the time, but one thing at a time. I got some new things that are centered around getting people in a better financial position so that you can have powerful credit, so that you can have powerful finances. My business is doing much better than it was when I started it, and it was doing fine when I started it, to be honest. My credit is flourishing. My finances are looking like a dream in comparison to where I came from, but they're very far from where I need to be. But along the way, I'm making sure that I highlight these steps for y'all. So the deciding factor will soon become temporarily unavailable for an undisclosed amount of time. Get the book, The Deciding Factor. Today we taking a look at chapter 10, and give me a second, because what is chapter 10 called? And I do this every episode. What is it called? Okay, cool. Okay. Chapter 10 is an easy one this time. See, and I knew I was going to set myself up for success. I knew it. It's actually called The Deciding Factor. The number 10 is especially significant to me, and that's the reason why I made this the title chapter of the book. I actually wanted to end it in 10 chapters. I wanted to end this podcast in about 10, maybe 13 episodes. I really wanted to cut it at 10. The number 10 was just so significant for me, fullness and wholeness and all that. But um, I did have a couple of more things that I wrote down after chapter 10. But this is a title chapter because I actually start to highlight a lot of these key characteristics. So I'm not going to go over every single one of them. I actually want y'all to go consume more of the content, not just the book, but I talk a lot about it on some of my Instagram videos, which a lot of those are also on my YouTube. I have a lot of that content out totally free, just like this podcast is totally free. So even if you haven't bought the book or the workbook, which I encourage you to do, if you already got the book, get the workbook. But if you haven't gotten that, a lot of this is on video. So super encouraging wave I'm sending to y'all to just act now and grab it so that you can get this thing in your hands. It's digital, but I want you to print the workbook so you can write through it, print the pages of the deciding factor so that you can highlight and scribble and whatever you got to do. But chapter 10, what are the deciding factors is what we're getting into today. So the first thing that I decided I wanted to address in this was you need to know what's driving you. So having drive is one thing, and it's very important to have drive. Of course, you got to have drive, because what's a car without a driver, right? But knowing what's driving you is understanding the type of fuel that you take to use yourself to the best of your ability and reach optimal peak performance. Okay, so if you're driving a diesel, you don't need to be putting 85 in it, right? Or if you're driving regular unleaded, you don't need to be throwing diesel fuel in it, because you might go for a while, but you're going to experience some serious issues later down the road, and they might not even be that far later down the road. So you need to understand, first of all, yes, having drive is necessary, obvious, cliche, but what is driving me? Like, for real. Am I in this thing for the money? Am I in this thing for the relationships? Am I in this thing for the joy that I get from it? Is this just a hobby? Is this a career choice or decision that I'm making right now? The level of decisions that I make in regard to the thing typically are based on, for me personally, what is my drive in even doing the thing, right? So I'm never overexerting energy into a thing, because as long as I'm keeping in mind what's driving me in the first place, I know how much energy to put into this thing or not. Okay, is this just a hobby? Keep it a buck with myself. Keep it a buck with the folks around me. Okay, if it's just a hobby, I'm not spending my life savings on it. But if there's a relationship that I value over money, if there's a relationship that I know I need to be lifelong, I will drain my savings trying to make sure that that relationship, because that person might need something. They might be in a scenario that it might not be life or death, but it might be the next 5 years of their life is on the line. Like, look, I'm gonna either live this way for the next 5 years or this way for the next 5 years. You have an opportunity to help me, and that person who has an opportunity to help could be me. So then I might be willing to spend more time, energy, and money making sure that that thing, you know, or there's relationships like me and Kuel, for example. Every so often in Denver, me and him would just pick a week and just go do whatever. We'll go get all you can eat wings, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I was saving up because I'm getting ready to purchase an investment property. But if me and him, listen, that relationship is worth so much to me. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm gonna go spend an extra 50. I'm gonna go spend an extra 100. Yeah, he got a studio session, and maybe he doesn't need anything. Maybe he's in the studio in the future and he just needs an extra hour to get something done, and I'm there just to be sure that the gesture is made and that he gets what he needs to get done. I might purchase the hour for him, right? Or if he's staying up late working on something and I'm tired and he FaceTimes me, I'm gonna pick up that FaceTime and put more energy into it. But what is actually driving me? Okay. The longevity of that relationship is my driving force. I got my 9 to 5 job, right? I know that my 9 to 5 job, listen, everything I do, I want to be the best version of myself doing it. Period. It don't matter what it is. It don't matter if it's me doing this podcast. It don't matter if it's me on my 9 to 5. And it doesn't matter if it's me, working on my investments in my career and becoming an investor in all kinds of different things, which I'm working on, me being a writer. I just want to be the best at the thing that I'm doing, the best version of myself, put my best foot forward. I want to be at a very high level of execution. But if if my job is draining me too much all throughout the day, and I know I got a contract to fulfill afterwards that I'm doing, working on my personal business, and I got a contractual obligation to fulfill after I get off, I know, listen, if I get off at 6, I got to get off at 6 to go do this other thing, even though maybe I don't feel fulfilled about the day I had at my 9 to 5. I cannot let that follow me into this other thing that I place so much importance on. I got to know the amount of energy, the amount of time, and the amount of money that is worth putting into this thing. How am I going to know that if I don't know what's driving me? I work my 9 to 5 for one thing, and it's that check. I picked a job to do that aligns with all the other stuff that I'm into, like helping people with their finances, right? Helping people be able to live a better quality of life by helping them better manage their money and manage their debt and manage their credit. I love to do that and things like that. So I picked a job that allows me to do that. I picked a job that requires me to pay a high level of attention to detail because that's what I'm on anyway. Okay. So I chose it because it already aligns with my values and what I'm trying to do. But it is not the thing that I place like a spiritual level of obligation on, for example, right? This company, which I plan to be with probably for a long time in all kinds of different capacities, I don't necessarily need to be in this position So I don't need to put so much energy into the specific position. I'm obviously going to be at the top of my game, and being at the top of my game for someone like me typically means, working my way up to kind of the top of the food chain and stuff like that. That's just how it is with me. I really want to perform my best, and I really want to, I'm always competitive. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to break my back and put something else on the line if something goes wrong there. I'm going to brush it off. I'm going to come back the next day, and I'm going to give it my best swing during the hours that I'm doing that, because I understand what's driving me there is different than what's driving me there, right? The thing that's driving me at this place is, honestly, I wouldn't be doing it for free, for this company in particular. So I would just probably not be doing it if I weren't getting that check, which means that that's my driver. I wouldn't be doing it if I weren't getting that check. That's my driver. Now, there are other things that I do in life, like this podcast. I do the podcast. I don't even do the podcast for free. I pay to do my podcast. I receive things for the podcast, but those things don't nearly equate to the amount of investment that I've made and continue to make to keep doing the podcast. But money's not driving me to do it. I understand that. So money can't take me out of the driver's seat while I'm doing it. You get where I'm going? So you got to know and understand what's driving you. The next thing you got to do is further develop your threshold for pain. So it just makes a huge difference. You got to know your level of endurance and your level of stamina. You only find those things out by pushing your boundaries and actually working yourself out. Just like if you're in a gym, you've got to have endurance, man. People who are peak performers, regardless of the way they're performing in the moment or the way that they're feeling about the thing that they're doing, they are able to just stick it out until the end. That requires stamina. Endurance sounds great. It sounds great, but what feels terrible about having to endure is when you're in a time when you need endurance and you need to endure, but you don't have the stamina. So you start to break down in the middle. And if you don't have the stamina, it's not even up to you. You'll be pushed to your absolute breaking point if you don't have the stamina. But you only get the stamina by working it out, which means you got to get the reps in with whatever it is that you're doing. So you got to understand what's driving you. Boom. You got to categorize, this thing you're doing based on what's driving you and what your motives are. And then you have to work it out, work it out, work it out. You got to put yourself in positions to continue to get the reps in doing the thing, right? So if I'm going to be, if I want to be a bigger speaker than I am now, I'm not a big speaker. I'm not famous by any means in the world of like public speaking. Yes, I've done it, and yes, I do it, and I've done it on some big stages and some very super tiny ones, like the one that I'm on right now is digital, so it's limitless. But people that watch me live is a small amount of people to watch me live. Yeah, hundreds of people watch this later, but it's not the biggest stage, and it's definitely not the biggest stage I'm gonna be on. But I'm putting myself in a position to continue to get the reps in. I'm working it out because not only is it for me, um, or excuse me, not only is it so that I can have the content in the catalog, but it is for me to be able to get the reps in and work this muscle. Because somebody could call me at the drop of a dime. I've had this before. Someone could call me drop of a dime and they need somebody to come talk in a classroom, in an auditorium, at a university. Okay. These are highly educated people that maybe I'm going to be speaking to. Could be digital, could be in person. I'm prepared because I have the stamina, because I've been putting the reps in. Okay. You got to have the stamina. Um, and it also takes somewhat of a blind confidence, because as you continue moving forward through whatever the thing is that you're doing, you're going to come up against certain levels of failure and all kinds of different levels of obstacles. And the bigger the thing that you're trying to accomplish in your life, the more important the thing is to you, the more absurd some of these obstacles that you're going to come up against are going to be, for real. And they're just going to be things that could really knock the wind up out of you. And you could be on your third wind and then boom, you're on your back. But you got to have somewhat of a blind confidence, because when everyone else around you and even logic says, call it quits, call it quits, you got to have the confidence in yourself just to be able to finish. And you got to look yourself in the eye and you got to say, don't. And it doesn't have to make sense. That's why I said logic. Even when logic says call it quits and put it down, you got to have that blind confidence that says, I don't even got too many reasons not to. I got one reason not to, and it's because I don't put it down. I don't quit. I don't stop. I actually have the stamina, so I'm going to use it. That's that blind confidence that it can take to finish which is another thing that I'm going to be talking about. Um, I don't want to skip the next thing that I had though, because I can go on all day about that, finishing and being a finisher. But the other thing is, how many hours are you putting into strategy and execution? How many hours are you putting into strategizing? And then how many hours are you putting into executing on your strategy? You got to be willing to spend the necessary amount of time planning. Listen, if you don't spend enough time on the plan and all you have is the fire, then you're like a wildfire and you have the power, but it can be too destructive. You don't have the strategy. You don't have that focused laser beam that it takes to kind of get through to the finish, right? I talk about being like the Hulk or being like Iron Man, right? So the Hawk has all of this power and all of this ability, and he can just use it. And when he uses it, sometimes it's so destructive. He gets destroying cities, destroying towns. He didn't even understand his power, right? I even have this other analogy that I use, very similar. Hercules, extremely powerful kid, man. If you ever saw the Disney movie, I'll just use that because it's more commonly that people understand the Disney movie than they understand the actual mythology of it all. But with Hercules in the Disney movie, I mean, he's throwing the frisbee and the plates and he's knocking everything down. He's knocking over pillars in the town, destroying all kinds of stuff, destroying the ceramic shop and all that in the beginning. He got a coach. The coach helped him dial it in, focus, strategize, plan. He's going into fights against the villains. And it's moments when you're like, oh, he's dead. This is it. He's dead. He cutting the head off, another head pop out. He cutting the head off, another head pop out. But there was a strategy. He said, okay, I can't cut the head off. I mean, I came with a sword, but I can't cut the head off. My strategy is I'm going to crush it with a boulder, the whole thing. Done. There was so much time spent between him discovering his ability and then being able to conquer that obstacle. So much time spent strategizing and planning and putting in the reps in. So much time was spent so that when it came time to execute, not only did he have the stamina and the endurance to finish when it looked like all was lost, he was able to get up and then execute on the strategy. Okay. So it's not enough to just be this force of energy. You got to be like a focused laser. And that requires you to have strategy and a plan and the ability to execute. Well, next page of my little bullet points I got here. Ooh, okay. So spending an adequate amount of time on things is huge because so many things will happen anyway after a certain amount of time passes, regardless. Okay. Stamina, endurance, strategy, execution, all of those things. But when you are willing to spend a certain amount of time on a thing, no matter how it's going, it could be going so slow as molasses, as a tortoise. I'm talking about slow. Okay. Everything I'm doing right now, it has taken me so long to get to the point that I'm at right now. Y'all don't even understand. I'm probably going to write a whole nother book within the next 5 years or 10 years about just the process to get right here. Okay. I can't wait to write a little TED talk or something and memorize it and go do it on a big platform and tell people about the amount of time that it's taken just for me to get to right here, or me purchasing this first apartment building and being able to tell the story of I've had this vision for so long, and it has taken so long to do something that might seem so small, but it's going to feel so huge. But I stuck to it every single day. Some days I didn't even see the results. I just knew that the thing that I was doing eventually has to get results because that's the way this whole thing is set up. This is the way the universe is set up. Okay. Consistency gets results. Practice makes perfect, even in the bad things. All right. You sit around and you eat honey buns all day, eventually you're going to have that belly. All right. But if you do 100 push ups a night, not even in a row, if you do 10, take a break, 10, take a break, 10, take a break, and you do 10 sets of those 100 push ups over a certain amount of time, you're going to notice a difference in your body. It might take a long time depending on the person, but you're going to notice a difference in your energy levels. You're going to notice a difference in your tone. You're going to notice a difference in your body. Okay. After a certain amount of time, some things just happen because of the amount of time you spent doing them. Stay at it. All right. Next thing, you got to cross examine your motives. You got to understand and interrogate your why. It's not enough to just have a why. You got to really interrogate what your why is. This goes back to The first thing I talked about. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but seriously, as y'all are starting to ask yourselves why you're doing certain things and starting to examine the motives behind certain things that you guys are doing, I seriously am asking everyone to please ask yourself, is this legit? Like, is my why legit? Peel back one more layer. I'm not telling you to make it this Doctor Strange level thought process, right? With the trillion different outcomes. I'm just saying you have the level that you've thought about it up to now. Peel back one more layer and just interrogate yourself one layer deeper and just ask yourself, okay, but why? But why? I ain't even gonna spend too much time on that because I talked about it in the beginning. I was like, ties into my first bullet point. But seriously ask why about your why. Like, okay, yeah, I want that thing because of that. But why though? You know, like I might here's the thing about me, right? Here's one thing that I want to I want to be able to travel whenever I want to travel. I don't want to be stuck to one house. I want to have places in different places, right? And someone might say, "Yeah, because you enjoy traveling, you want to be free," you know. I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." But I over the past year or two, I've peeled back those layers and I've realized, oh, that's because I was moving around so much as a kid all the time that it's gotten to the point where that's what I prefer now, right? It's like it's not because I enjoy it. Like, yes, I enjoy being able to see the country and be able to move freely. I don't want to have someone telling me you have to stay here to do this thing and get this thing done. That's why I like to work remotely. I don't like to be tied to an office to be able to make my money or anything like that. Because if a person can hold you there, then they can control your time. Yes, but I peeled that a layer deeper and said, oh, as a child, I went to so many different schools. I had to make so many different friends. I was always on the road driving back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's what I'm used to now. So I might want to, you know, have multiple properties in different places and multiple cribs and be bi-coastal. I might want to have a crib out of the country here, crib out of the country there, so I can pick up and go after a certain amount of time. And because I'm working remote, I don't necessarily have to be tied to one place to make my money. But I peeled it all back to make sure, like, is this okay? Because there could be a why underneath your why that taints the whole thing because you're trying to you're trying to meet a legitimate need in illegitimate way. Okay. Humility, huge humility or humiliation. All right, humiliation gets a bad rap. Okay, so I break this down in the book. I'm not going to break it down too much right now, but the process of humiliation helps to strip away your pride. It takes some degree of failure, some degree of hardship. It takes you thinking you got it and then you randomly don't. Typically on a stage that people can see you, humiliation, okay? Or at least you see you know. It causes you to double verify your actions when you're doing things, which is actually a good habit. I'm not talking about second guessing yourself. I'm talking about cross-examining yourself and being able to assess yourself and not always needing another outside force to provoke you to do that. It keeps you on your toes with you. Always considering that while I do believe in myself, I understand that I could be wrong about this thing potentially. So I'm prepared for whatever the other outcome could be. Maybe I have not necessarily a plan B, but just a contingency plan to make sure I still meet the goal if this thing goes wrong. But I still meet that goal if this thing goes wrong. It's something so small as that, or double checking the blueprint, double checking the plan, the notes that you took, the vision, going back over it one more time, making sure those numbers really add up the way they're supposed to, right? The process of humiliation. Coming to the last of it because I don't want to give away all the goods. Resilience, man. And this is one, let me tell you, I could go all day about this because resilience, and I'm not talking about just like being willing to finish a thing strong. I'm talking about finishing in general. I'm gonna walk that back. I'm not talking about finishing strong. I'm not talking about finishing a specific kind of way at a specific pace. I'm talking about finishing in general. Let me tell y'all the amount of people who I meet or I talk to, I'm not even gonna say online because that's so many. Oh, if I start getting into the Instagram archives of how many people just talk, and get fulfillment from talking, fulfillment from just a conversation about the things that they are going to do, who literally don't do them ever. It's wild. You got to have the resilience. And listen, finishing strong doesn't mean finishing strong to my standard. Finishing strong means finishing as strong as you can with the energy that you have to be able to finish. Y'all seen the videos of the people that run in the race, they're running the race and they're stumbling. They might got a twisted ankle and they're stumbling and they might be crawling across the finish line. And then you'll see one of the other runners come help them up and you'll see everybody clapping and cheering for them, because the people who go out on a limb and they walk that plank and they jump into the ocean, the deep, dark depths of their dreams and goals, and they have the courage and the audacity to actually see something through to the end, whether it ends up being the way that they thought it would be or not. They understand what that takes and the level of sacrifice that it takes to finish. And you finishing strong, period, is not you finishing strong to my state. It's not you finishing like me. It's not you finishing like me. It's It's finishing, period. It's finishing regardless of. That's resilience. That's what it takes to be a finisher. I got a whole bunch of other stuff in this book, obviously, that I detail and describe, but I just got to harp on that just for a second, though. Finishing, period. You know what? I might have to make a t-shirt or something. Oh my gosh. There's finishing strong and there's finishing, period. Being a finisher means finishing, period. It means finishing regardless of. That is the totality of the notes that I have for y'all today, man. I just want to say thank you for everybody dropping in, taking a peek at this when it comes out. And I'm just very grateful, man. Let me just say this. I'm so grateful for people being able, or excuse me, being willing to take a look at these concepts and ideas and some of these things that I highlight called the key characteristics, aka the deciding factors. These are things that carried me through an extremely dark time and continue to carry me through light times. Um, Tap into the Instagram account at Tried and True Pod. Actually, I think that's on everything, every social media account. Tap in with your boy, Coach Solly. Y'all see it. Where is it? Let me use my other hand. Oh, hold on. All right, let me put it back up here. But tap in with your boy, nonetheless. I'm gonna get rid of this thing. There it is. Tap in with your boy, Coach Solly. There it is, right there. So for all the people listening, you can't see. I'm actually trying to get it right, like with my finger on the camera and all that. I would do a lightning round, but I already have the answers to my lightning rounds. So obviously it's pointless for me to do a lightning round right now. Anybody who has questions, though, I want y'all to start submitting questions that you want answered on the podcast, whether they be for me or for other people. If you have guests in mind that you want to see on the podcast, let me know who they are. For all the people who have been asking me if you can be on the podcast, my podcast is not something that I take requests, and it's not like a line of people who get in at the door. If you do this thing, then you can get in with your golden ticket. My podcast is invitation only. I have considered two guests ever who actually asked me to be on the podcast. There are two people ever who I had planned to get on, and only one of them is still going to be on. Everybody else was invitation only, and it's because I curate this space with a specific strategy in mind, and I feel a strong duty to my listeners to make sure I'm not just giving them whatever. Again, this is entertaining, but it's not entertainment. It's education, man. It's education, it's training, and this is like the hyperbolic time chamber. Me and y'all come here to get better and then go back out into the world. Or if you're listening to this while you're in the world, we use this as our way to stay juiced up, okay? And keep that ball running and keep them chains moving. Like I said, once again, you listen to the Tried and True podcast, baby. I need y'all to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, please. I don't have nearly as many subscribers as I actually need. There's another podcast out there that has a very similar name to mine, and they do completely different content, and it's entertainment, and I am not entertainment. So obviously in my mind, I'm like, this is one of the more important versions of a content period with this name. I want to be at the top, okay? Specifically because everything I do is to serve y'all, and I spend a lot of time, money, and energy to serve y'all. So please give back to me by hitting that subscribe button. I need y'all to subscribe on YouTube specifically. Leave me reviews on Apple, leave me reviews on Spotify, and subscribe on YouTube. Sponsors, hit your boy up, okay? Y'all see I've done product placement all throughout season 1. No one asked me to do that. They didn't even know I was doing that until after it was already done and these episodes came out. I'm not doing that anymore. These people I know personally, these are the homies, and these are people who have already looked out for me in some capacity or who have inspired me in some capacity already. But hit me up, okay? Because I will definitely take sponsorships and promote brands that I truly believe in. If I can test out a product or something like that, and I truly believe in it, then I'll feed it to the people. So strike your boy up, man. I got a couple of brand partnerships in the works. Y'all will see those coming soon. And yeah, I think we're gonna land this plane, man. I think we out. We out. I think we out. Y'all have a good evening. It was a pleasure. Look, today I was tried. Obviously, it's all true.